Carolina Buitrago and Lane Marshall as the moderators of an EVO session that took place in January and February of this year. And this is a new session, a new approach actually, and it's already gotten a lot of traction. And it's great to have it as part of our anniversary, 20th anniversary lineup for the EVO sessions. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Carolina and Lane.
Welcome, everyone. And as Christine just mentioned, we are reporting out on our SOFLA session, which was a first-time EVO session. However, it's a little more complicated than that because it's kind of an offspring of another EVO session that already existed. Back in 2015, with some colleagues, I began the flipped learning session, which now has been running, I think, just about every year since 2015. And now it's rather established. And so this year, we started SOFLA, which you can see says flipped learning right in there, synchronous online flipped learning approach. So it's kind of an offshoot or an offspring. And in fact, we asked people to start with the flipped learning if they had never heard of flipped learning, because in only we only have 5 weeks. And so we started with a little bit about flipped learning, but we basically wanted to assume that people knew at least something about flipped learning when we launched the SOFLA, because we wanted to go through the 8 steps of SOFLA, which you'll see in a few minutes on a few slides beyond. So to introduce ourselves, Carolina and I were the lead coordinators in a group of 5. So I'm Lane Marshall, Helene, but Lane, from Long Island University, Hudson, and I direct the TESOL programs there and Bilingual Ed. And Carolina, do you want to just introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Yeah, I am Carolina Rodriguez Buitrago. I am a professor at Institución Universitaria Colomboamericana Única in Bogotá, Colombia. And I am also a moderator of the flipped learning session. I started that thanks to Lane, who actually invited me to become a moderator after I was a participant. Then I became part of the coordinating team of EVO. I finished my cycle there, and then I moved on to moderating the SOFLA session. I also teach in a teacher education program.
Okay, great. All right, so what is this SOFLA business? So what happened was I took my knowledge of flipped learning. I've been flipping since 2011. And my knowledge of online learning, which I'd been doing since 2008, putting my courses online, but I never put them together. They were separate. And then suddenly I said, wait a minute, I can flip online. How do I do it? And I just mixed it all up and I came out with a recipe, which is SOFLA. Okay, so that's how it happened. And Carolina was right there with me, encouraging me. This was back in 2016 when we first did an official SOFLA class, which was a grammar class. What else, right? We did the grammar class. Okay, so the idea is you take the best practices of both flipping and online. And when you mix them together, what we decided was really, really important was to have a synchronous piece. Because when you teach synchronously, you have all your nonverbal communication, the 4 skills, everything is happening in class. So this is SOFLA. You can see it's this learning cycle with 8 steps. And we're not here to teach you about SOFLA. We're here to report on the EVO session. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but I do want you to see that the pre-work, you might remember from flipping, pre-work is important, is yellow. Because if you don't have the pre-work in place and do it effectively, the rest of the cycle falls apart, right? So, so what we did in this session was, and we'll tell you more about it in detail, but what we did was we went through all 8 steps. We took the participants in 5 weeks through all 8 steps. And Carolina is going to tell you more about what we did in the EVO session.
Okay, so this was the first time session, but because of the contingency for the pandemic, we had a lot of interested people on this model, which promised a lot of structure for them in their online classes. A lot of people were really scared about how to structure their class because they were focusing on the technology. They didn't know really like how to approach a lesson. So that was, I guess, one of the key differentiating factors in our session was that it promised some structure, especially for the synchronous class, which is what people were kind of freaking out about. So we had 150 people registered. For a first time EVO session, we were pretty satisfied with that number. Then we had 50 active people on Canvas throughout the entire session, which is actually very good. We had them active in Canvas for the forums. We gave information inside of Canvas. We shared different resources. We had a space there for them to share their lessons. But we also had 2 additional platforms that were Perusal and PlayPosit. So in Perusal, we had people also registered. And as you can see in the number before, we had 30 people active on Perusal. What we did on Perusal was to discuss readings. So Lane has put together in the course of these 4 or 5 years, she has put together some articles and some resources for workshops she's given and different articles on flipped learning that she has written and also I have and everything. So we had all these articles within Perusal and we had people discuss them. We know EVO is not a university accredited course, but there were a lot of people who were highly engaged with these materials. And Perusal was a great way to introduce this kind of tool for them. Because as you know, in flipped learning, sometimes we need to have these tools for the pre-work so that students can actually engage with the information and not just read plainly the text. And so since we need some analytics, we need some data from students. So we thought, well, we would use Perusal, which is a website we have used ourselves in our courses. It's a little bit more academic, but we thought it was great because people got to know it and so they can use it in their own contexts. We also used PlayPosit, and on PlayPosit, we had some video lessons. Basically, the idea of using PlayPosit was also the same, of offering them an example or a sample on how to do this exercise of the pre-work. So we gave them videos, we gave them different information about flipped learning in general, flipped learning with online learning and SOFLA. And we had participation of 20 participants in the PlayPosit, constant participation throughout the 5 weeks. We were realizing the importance of teaching these tools through example, like by using them. And so this was one of the highlights in our session. Another one of the highlights that I missed to point in this slide was we had an average of 20 synchronous sessions for our EVO. We would meet on Saturdays and Sundays, and Lane is going to tell you more about those meetings. And we also had, as an exemplar of students' work, we had 15 completed SOFLA lessons. So out of the 50 active participants on Canvas, 15 of them completed their SOFLA lesson. So as we did our session step by step, the 8 steps of the SOFLA model, we walked our participants through how to create each one of these steps, and they would do it as the week progressed. And so by the end, 15 people had completed their SOFLA lessons, and we're still keeping in touch with them because we're still giving them feedback on the tools, the lessons, the decisions they are making. So I'll move this for Lane to tell us, oh no, sorry. Before that, I'm going to tell you about our moderating team. We were 5 moderators, 3 seasoned moderators for EVO. We were Lane, as she told you, she was the person who started the flipped learning session with a group of colleagues. Then me, I have been a moderator for the flipped learning session since 2016. And then Heike Phillip, you know, she's been around with immersive technology, with storytelling, with all this like virtual worlds for a long time. And so we were the 3 seasoned moderators, and we had 2 new moderators and new people to EVO. They are Heather Rubin, an educator in New York, and Kazuko Saito. She is a student of Lane and also a Japanese teacher. She brought a very interesting lesson to us, and Lane can tell you a bit more about them too, maybe when she talks about the lessons that we had. So there you go.
Okay, so we had 4 types of synchronous sessions, and I just want to say that the synergy of the 5 of us, the moderators, we all had different points of view, and the meetings we had, I'm going to use a nice word, where they were animated, because it was difficult to come up with what we really wanted to accomplish in the synchronous sessions. And everyone had different ideas. And so we decided, hey, let's do a little bit of everything. So we ended up doing a little bit of everything. And it turned out to actually, I think, work very well. So one of the things we did was we had guest speakers. We brought in someone who's actually using SOFLA in her classroom, Ilka Koska, at Northeastern University, and she and I wrote an article about SOFLA, not about her class, that one's coming up, but we wrote an article about SOFLA that first introduced the cycle itself. And she came to talk about what it felt like to be a teacher teaching SOFLA. And we recorded all the synchronous sessions too, so people can go back. The second guest we had was someone who is researching SOFLA as his dissertation. And he studied my grammar class in the fall and interviewed my students. And so we also had a student panel, and on the student panel were some of my students from the fall. And so this particular session was the student perspective. His research, Jeff Skolnick at Deakin College in Australia, his focus is to look at the student perspective on SOFLA. And so we did a whole session with students and the researcher looking from the student point of view. So then we went to having demos. The demos, which were usually on a Saturday, I think, were headed by moderators. So the idea of a demo, in fact, I gave one this morning with Heather at TESOL. We did a demo. Interesting. We had Heike do a demo. What we mean by demo is that we use the 8 steps of SOFLA as part of what we're doing in the synchronous session, which is teaching them something about SOFLA that they're going to need. So Heike was teaching them about making a talking head video, but when she did that session, she went through the 8 steps. Okay. Then we had Kazuko do a SOFLA Japanese class with us, and she went through the 8 steps teaching us Japanese. That was really a blast. And then the next one was Carolina, who did a session on giving instructions. And it turns out more than meets the eye. It's very complicated to give appropriate instructions and not have students come back at you with, what did you say we had to do? And Martha Ramirez has an article on that we all used and learned from as part of what we did in Carolina's session. So those were the demo sessions. All right, then we had a couple other sessions, from one from me and one from Heather, where we took the SOFLA approach and we added a little to it. One thing about EVO that's so great is that you come in with one thing, but you come out with something even better. So what happened was in the clarification session, I clarified a step that most people apparently were not totally clear about. And so we talked about what step 6 really is. We're not going to go into it now. Preview and discovery, and also clarified other steps. It was a chance, it was a free form session where people could ask questions about the steps. Then Heather led one where she presented brand new SOFLA rubrics, never seen before, first time seen in EVO. She's got rubrics for peers, rubrics for us to evaluate the SOFLA classes, and a hyperdoc for people to use for planning. She's amazing at that. She's the one who did the demo with me this morning at TESOL. And then, of course, we had the participants do synchronous sessions. So I think we had 3 of those, didn't we? We had Paul, Teresa, and Tulpa, right? We had 3 teachers present. and they presented their brand new SOFLA lessons, never had tried it before. And they did it live with all of us there, which took a lot of bravery there. So, okay. And then, so those were the synchronous sessions. What are we do? We're just going to show them a screenshot, right, of the participants. Yeah. So one of the things that we were asked to do in reporting to you is showing the products. Do you want to talk about the participants folder, Carolina?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we did was we created a shared folder for all of our participants, and then we assigned one folder for each one of them. The people who actually uploaded the entire SOFLA lesson onto the Canvas platform. So we took those lessons and we put them in a folder. And so as you can see here inside of this folder, this is Eileen's folder, and we have, for example, Gulner did her peer review using Heather's rubric. And also each one of the moderators did some of the lessons. So people got feedback on their lesson from a fellow participant and from a moderator. This really was an addition to our session because people felt more connected with the model. They got to ask questions and to correct things. We have been refining, and Lane has also been working on the model and refining things and instructions based on the experience gained with the participants for this EVO session. We have to say that we had all many different topics, not only English, like English language teaching, but we also, for example, in this case, she's an expert like in academic writing, so she used APA. We had one of our participants from Argentina who shared a lesson for the military where he works. We also had another teacher from England, a teacher from Germany, from Colombia, and they were all very, let's say the sharing was friendly, was collaborative, and not only from the moderators, but between the participants themselves as well. So that was a good lesson that we learned. We would definitely do the same exercise if we did it next year.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we have created a Facebook group. So just in case you want to know more about SOFLA, because this is going to keep growing, keep improving, and keep changing. So definitely stay tuned with our Facebook group, because that's where the information is going to be posted throughout the year. And well, this is our contact information. Lane?
I just want to thank EVO for believing in us and letting us try something that's just right out of the gate, brand new. We had never done a session where we had 5 weeks to work on SOFLA. So we created it as we were going, and we proposed it in the fall, but we added so much as we went along, and now it's there. So we've created it, and it wouldn't have been there if it weren't for EVO. And the only other thing I want to mention is when you think about 15 people and you say, oh, they had 150 registered, but only 15 really completed it and did a lesson. These are not regular lesson plans. You're not looking at them, but they're very complicated plans because remember, there's 8 steps and they really needed to internalize it. So we were very happy getting a group of 15 teachers who completed it. We also had a lot of teachers who did some of the steps. We're talking about a complete lesson when we say 15. Just wanted to throw that in there. And if anyone wants to try and contact us and learn more about SOFLA, we're happy to talk to you. That's it. And now we are open for Q&A.
That's great. That is absolutely great. Thank you. Thank you for this. SOFLA sounds like a pudding. It sounds delicious.
It definitely was.
All right. If someone wants to join, let's say before EVO, is there any way that they can get more information and maybe try a course using SOFLA? Is that possible?
Well, we have Perusal, which is still open, and there's a code, and we're happy to share that code. People can go into Perusal, and we're there asynchronously, and they can learn on their own as they go through, and they can interact with other people.
So it is possible to learn on your own with, say, the help of
yeah, in perusal.
Okay.
Mhm.
Great.
What do you plan to share on that Facebook page you mentioned?
Well, we talked to our participants wanted to share lessons because they were really excited, but because these are 8 steps, it takes time to really internalize them and really sync them in with your students, really synchronize them with your teaching style. So we thought, well, we just leave this Facebook group open. So whenever you have a lesson and you want to share it with the team, you can get feedback. And so that's the idea, to share lessons and resources. Lane has been putting together videos and clarifying information for the different steps. I have been working in Colombia in my institution with SOFLA, so we'll very soon have the Spanish version of it. And Kazuko is working on the Japanese version of it. So yeah, this is going to go places.
Brilliant.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
And it's also, you've opened a patent. In other words, nobody can use the word. It's yours, Lane. Is that
Oh,
it?
SOFLA. Yeah,
Yes.
SOFLA, the acronym is a registered trademark.
Okay. Isn't that a lot of money? Or it wasn't?
It's worth it. You know, I want my
Really?
intellectual property to be respected.
No, that's great. I think it's great. I just heard that it's hundreds of thousands, like $100,000 or
No,
something.
no. We'll
No,
talk
it's-
later.
Okay, great. No, I'd
Nothing
love
like
to know
that.
more.
I'm a teacher.
That's what I was wondering, why would somebody do that? Okay, great.
I just like to add that your session is wonderful. I mean, all active participants, and I've learned perusal because of you, because of your session, and I really love it. And also, I've logged into the Flipgrid and watching you all introducing yourself in Japanese, and the Japanese part, watashi wa something this, and it's really interesting what you have there. And thank you for having this session. I hope you host it again next year.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Well, our second session, I try to contact the Anna Puma, who led the wellness session, but apparently she's not available. So I don't think that we're going to have that. So if you want to add anything, there's more time, I think.
So maybe if there are questions, that would be good.
We have only a sentence or two in the chat because there aren't too many of us here. But there is only from Jane. She says that's a wonderful idea to have students' perceptions.
Yeah, I'd also like to add that one of the participants, Teresa from the Czech Republic, was going to do online flipped learning. She was going to do flipped learning as her dissertation. Now she's going to do SOFLA as her dissertation. And so she and Jeff Skolnick, who is one of the guest speakers, you'll recall, the two of them have gotten together and they're writing a paper together. And I'll be doing a piece of the paper, the one that introduces the model, and then they'll be presenting their research and they're collaborating. None of that would have happened without EVO.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing.
So that's something else.
No, it's a lot. It's a lot. I think EVO, EVO, not EVO.
Sorry, I said
EVO is, no, I also say EVO. As Christine said, I think that there's so many amazing aha moments and so many amazing things in the sessions. It just goes on and on where you meet people and new people from all over. And what I found interesting with this particular EVO session, that there were a lot of participants, not only from Japan, but also from China. So we're expanding, and I think that's really important because we can learn so much more when we're connected with the world and not just one area. Yeah.
We know that we're lacking in terms of participants in Africa.
Oh, we've had Africa too, but not enough, I guess.
Right, we just had a few, but that is content, as Sanya's map showed very clearly for the annual report, right, Sanya?
Yeah,
Africa is missing. So
it
I'm
was
working
very
on it.
interesting to say that we have to expand a little more to some of the countries that were not represented.
And I have a student from Africa in my MA TESOL course on curriculum and syllabus design right now. He's from Ivory Coast, and he works for the ministry. And he said to me this morning when I told him about this, he said he doesn't know exactly who to contact or where it would be, but because he has that contact in the ministry, we're going to get into Africa more too.
Well, we have North Africa, you know.
We have North
Tunisia,
Africa,
Morocco,
yeah,
Egypt.
we also have South Africa, but in the middle, it's pretty blank. So, and I checked in particular, Senegal, I think we had some participants from there, but you know, all the surrounding countries, and there are lots of them, we still need to get, but we'll see.
We had Vietnam in one year.
Yeah, well,
and
we don't even have Germany. So I tried.
Germany?
Yes, I looked for a TESOL affiliate in Germany. It doesn't exist. I looked at other English teacher organizations in Germany. They don't exist. So it's, yeah, I don't know what's going on there. You know, we have people, Heike is German, and we have other Germans in our sessions, but there is not one organization that we could contact, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Sweden too, you know. Sweden's also another country. Finland, Sweden.
having a
listed
fika.
all of the ones that were missing on our annual report. So, you know, we, as EVO coordinators, we should make an effort to find some of those organizations of English teachers in those countries, but in any case. Well, it
Well,
was
there's
great
the
to have
L, the,
so many
I was gonna say,
representatives in your session, Lane and Carolina. That was definitely a welcome addition and very much appreciated that it goes way out, you know, all over the world. We're now getting a lot more from India. I think this is maybe not the first time
this
that we
year.
had
Yeah.
India represented, but as moderators, definitely, and several sessions. So Peter, keep up the good work, please. And
That's right. Spread the word in
disseminate the
Jamaica.
information, spread it out, okay?
Oh, but we had Costa Rica. I forgot about Costa Rica. Was that added?
Nicole McVeigh.
Sanya? Yeah, you
I'm
know
not
Nicole,
sure.
right?
I'll have to check.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that the LT SIG of IATEFL is kind of a sister group to us in the sense that they're focused on a similar area as we are. And there are a lot of people that are in both. You know, there's heavy participation in Europe there. So that's another connection. We could make that stronger, a stronger connection with the LT SIG.
We used to have that, you know.
Yes, we did. We had a stronger connection with them. So yes,
we don't
that's
anymore. Yeah.
But,
Plus the Vietnam people too. I wanted to say that sometimes we lose people. We lost Vietnam. We had Vietnam about 2 years ago. And because the ministry sent them. The ministry has a lot to do with it.
I think we had Vietnam. I just checked Costa Rica.
Oh, we did?
Listed as missing. If you give me sharing privileges, I can show you. I have it right in front of me.
Oh, you have, I think.
Yep.
Don't you have your co-host? I gave you.
No, I went in as participant on.
No, but I gave you I made you co-host.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, of course. Let me check. Yep, that's right.
Okay.
I did that first thing I usually do. I think I made just about everybody co-host.
Yeah, mine says host disabled participant screen sharing. So.
But you're co-host, that's weird. And screen sharing, okay, let me check. How could you be a co-host without screen sharing? That's interesting.
I'm just happy that I'm in the session.
I also gave you, yeah, okay.
And Carolina and Jane probably know, we were in the previous session hoping that we could just stay in, and then the host disabled it and we had to leave. So.
I'm just looking at the YouTube stream to see if anyone's posting questions there. Is
No,
anyone-
Oh, good idea.
Okay.
This wasn't really publicized very much since we had
Right.
problems and
Yeah, that is the other thing that we're going to have to work on in the call IS. But, you know, this is also the first time that it was virtual. So in the past, it wasn't really that necessary. And for us, you know, for EVO, it has always been that way. So our outreach is much, much greater and always has been simply by the need to reach out, because that was the only way that we could get our audience. So we need to share that in the future. And I'm sure some of this will stick with the call IS too, that some sessions will continue to be online is my guess. But, you know, of course, I could be wrong.
We have a question in
yeah.
chat, and I can see that Carolina has already seen it. It's about reviewing, here it is, report. Carolina, would you like to say something more about the reviewing of the lessons? Nagla's
Sure,
question.
Tanya. Yeah, I was just responding to Nagla. Thanks for the question. I guess we would have to ask permission for participants to make them public, like to share them, because they were part of the session, right? So they had some stuff on Canvas, but then we asked them to put together a final version of the lesson and send it to us via Google Docs. So they made modifications and adjustments to that lesson they had been working on. So we have the final version on like a controlled environment, let's say. So I guess we will have to ask for permission, but if that happens, I guess we can share them on the Facebook group, you know, if we get permission for using it openly. So I'll just copy the Facebook group address on the chat so that you can get it and you can just join it from there.
But we should add that these are not exemplars. These are not lessons that we're saying necessarily follow SOFLA, because these were learners of SOFLA. These are not accomplished master teachers of SOFLA. So as we said in our peer reviews, there are things they're still working on. So we wouldn't want to be putting them out there as if these are SOFLA lessons. I'd be a little uncomfortable with that, in addition to the privacy issue. So they're both issues.
So Lane, do you plan to
Yes.
have open, I don't know, some kind of an open environment where you would post some of these lessons, or is that?
Well, like I
Not
said,
some-
I'm not comfortable posting something that isn't really a SOFLA.
No, I'm talking
lesson.
about yours, maybe yours.
Oh,
or
mine?
maybe-
I don't know how great
Yours-
mine are either.
Wait a minute. Oh, you mean it's very customized? In other words, everybody uses it for
Well,
their.
remember, SOFLA, well, I shouldn't say remember, we didn't tell you what SOFLA was. This has all been dancing around it because we haven't actually talked about it. But SOFLA is a template for a lesson. So it can be applied to any instructional context. We happen to be TESOL people, so we think about it that way. But Jeff, for example, in Australia, he's in the business. He teaches business management courses. He's applying it. Silvana was in our session. I'm not sure why, but she teaches chemistry. So it's for any subject. It's for any age group. It's for, you know, it's just a template. You take the template and you use it for whatever you want to use it for. So it's pedagogical principles that drive it. And each step has certain principles, and the steps flow one to the other. And so, you know, any lesson that we provide is just one interpretation of the steps. And the danger is that people think, oh, it has to be that kind of lesson, but it doesn't. You can teach anything with it. So we're still working with what you put out there to tell people about it. And we're open to ideas. The best thing to start with is the article, the article in TESOL EJ on the internet that Vance Stevens edits.
Mhm.
That's the best place to start to learn about it, to understand the model.
I just put it on the chat just in case.
Yeah.
And Vance, by the way, is stepping down or has stepped down as the editor of the journal.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
so, yeah, that position.
He's a
is-
great editor. He really put us through our paces with that article with, that I did with Ilka. I'm happy with how it turned out, but boy,
Yeah, I was
yeah,
asked.
he's a
to
good
do it.
editor.
I was asked to do it, but I'm not up to it right now.
Yeah.
Looks great. Thank you for
Sure.
sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess if there aren't any other questions, we'll just say
Wrap
thank
it
you.
I don't know if you saw the annual report that I had up. Did you want to take a quick
You-
look at it?
You
or-
mean the map?
The map, yes.
The annual report with the map, yes.
Mhm. It's kind of small for my eyes, but
And this is just the countries that were represented and not represented this time. I noticed that Nicaragua was missing, but in the past, Nicaragua has been represented and have some personal connections there. So I will get those working again.
okay, so you've got some work ahead of you.
Well, all of us, Nellie.
I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
We're a team, remember?
That was a joke.
I hope so.
All right, everybody, we had a wonderful day today on our first Best of EVO, and we're looking forward to 2 more days.
Yes.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for this and happy anniversary.
And thank you for being part of EVO.
Thank you for making it such a success, all of you guys,
Yes.
okay?
Thank you, Lane and Carolina.
Today,
Enjoyed
and
it.
you know what Nellie and I kept